Joining me now in the studio, the president of the NAACP, Cornell William Brooks. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Brooks. What do you think is going to happen once this grand jury announces its decision?
I believe that the citizens of Missouri and Ferguson and the country will respond in terms of a call for systemic change. In other words, Michael Brown's death is more than an individual tragedy. It feels like a generational assault for many young people. And so where we have the lowest crime rate in 20 years, we yet have a generation of young people who perceive themselves in the midst of a pandemic of police misconduct in terms of racial profiling. So the people are going to call for systemic responses, legislation passed, reforms in policing, police departments that are accountable and that engage the community and don't profile and prey upon the community.
Well, the governor has already declared a state of emergency. They're preparing really for the worst, I would suppose. Are you concerned about that?
I'm very concerned. The governor's responded to this as though it were a security crisis as opposed to a social justice crisis. And so I believe that his actions with respect to the guard in the state of emergency are presumptuous as to the intent of the demonstrators, who are really young practitioners of democracy, and presumptuous with respect to what may happen. We can go into this expecting nonviolent civil disobedience. I believe that the governor should respond systemically in terms of what he's going to do, what he's going to call upon his state to do. The task force is a great start, but much more needs to be done.
Well, I mean, as you well know, I mean, this grand jury may well not return an indictment here. They may take no action. And what I'm hearing, it's going to be a very hard case for the prosecutors probably to prove. Are you concerned about, if that happens, what the reaction of the community will be? Do you think it will be violent?
I am concerned. I am concerned because we have a prosecutor who had 5 complaints filed with the Justice Department concerning his police departments by the NAACP. He failed to take action. This was before Mike Brown. He then conducts a grand jury process where he essentially dumps evidence into the laps of the grand jury with little direction. So are we concerned? Yes. But we're more concerned about the failure of the grand jury to be given the kind of direction as is typically the case. And we're concerned about a grieving family and an outraged community. We want justice for them first and foremost, but we want to prevent more Mike Browns. That's the issue here.
Well, are you urging people in the community not to commit violence here? Or are you saying to them, look, this is not going to help, in fact, it could hurt our cause? Or what are you telling?
Absolutely. The NAACP has always stood for civil disobedience, nonviolent protests. We've done that over the arc of our history, and we do so now. We're calling upon our members of the community, to respond to this decision in a nonviolent fashion. Everyone has a right to express their rights under the Constitution. In fact, we have an obligation. But we need to be clear here. There's an asymmetry of responsibility. The police have the greatest responsibility to keep peace and order and to behave in a fashion that encourages nonviolence, not to agitate the situation. So we believe that 99% of demonstrators and protesters will be nonviolent. Certainly the Justice Department and others are responding to the possibility of violence. And again, it's just a possibility.
There's a huge media presence there. Does it concern you that so much attention is being focused here, that this in fact could provoke something?
No, I believe the media in many ways helps, because they're helping us focus on how to prevent future tragedies. I mean, consider this, Bob. Over 100 years ago, the NAACP, almost 100 years ago, stood for an anti-lynching law, which would prevent the kind of racial profiling that we see today. So the point being here is we've long stood against this kind of violence. We don't want violence. We don't want violent protests done in the name of a violent act. We don't want that.
All right. Well, let's hope that everything works out. We'll have an eye on it. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Ferguson.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.